Hey guys, so in this video we will be talking about how to critically read a text and how to annotate it so that you are an active reader. So a lot of the times when you're reading something, you might sit there and just kind of like glaze over the words and not really focus on what it is you're reading. Or you might have a highlighter and just start highlighting things without really paying attention to what it is you're reading. So in order to avoid that, in order to be an active reader, there are certain steps that you should take when you are reading. So the very first thing we want to talk about is what types of things you should be taking note of when you are annotating a text. So whenever you're reading something, you want to sit there with pen and paper or if you're using like an iPad, export the document to something that you can take notes on, and you want to do these things as you're taking notes. So you want to underline or highlight main ideas and key points. Try not to underline whole sentences or sections, and also write why it's important. So if you're underlining, entire chunks or highlighting entire chunks of information, you're basically saying everything that you're reading is important, which is not true, right? So we want to highlight only important information, or only the main ideas, and then next to whatever we highlighted, just write a few words explaining why you highlighted that. So when you're reviewing your notes, you won't look at it and think, okay, well, what's the point of this? Like, why did I even think to highlight this? You will have a note next to it that's explaining to yourself why you highlighted it. Next, you can put question marks next to sections that you do not understand. So when you're reviewing the text at a later point, you can just look at the question mark and think, okay, wait, I have to review this part again because I didn't totally get it, right? So putting question marks can help you with that second review that you're doing. Next, you're going to circle words that you do not know and write a synonym above it. So whenever you're reading a text, if you see a word that you don't know and you look it up in a dictionary or in a thesaurus, you think, oh, okay, that's what it means. And then you continue reading. But then if you're reviewing it, you may forget what it is that word meant. So if you circle any words that you don't know or you're unfamiliar with, and you just look up a synonym for it, and you write the synonym above the word, then later on when you're reviewing it, you can read the synonym and you'll get the point that the author was making, or you'll understand that sentence better. Next, you want to put brackets around supporting evidence and examples. So whenever you see supporting evidence or any examples, you just put brackets next to it. So when you're reviewing your work later, you'll know this is just a supporting example. I can skip over it and I can focus on other ideas that were mentioned in the text. Next, you want to summarize the paragraph's content in the margin. So you might have an article that's divided into different sections, or you might have it divided into different paragraphs. So when you've read a paragraph, just write a couple of words next to that paragraph explaining what that paragraph was about. Or if you have the same idea that's in a certain section or in one, maybe like 2 or 3 paragraphs, just write a few words on what that section is talking about. So that way when you're reviewing this article at a later point, you can just review your notes. You don't have to reread the same article, 3 and 4 times to get the main idea. You can just look at your notes to get those ideas. All right, next we have note any contradictions or objections that you may have to the author's point. So if you disagree with something that the author is saying, that's a great opportunity to take notes, or to, take note of that disagreement. Because let's say you have to write a paper on this topic, that would be a great point for you to explore in your essay. So any objections that you have, like, don't read something thinking, okay, I have to agree with everything that this author is saying. Instead, read it like you're really having a conversation with someone, right? Like, you're thinking, wait, I don't really agree with that point, and take notes on whatever you disagree with. Next, you want to react to what the author is saying and try to imagine you're having a conversation with a friend. So this can really, really help you to be an active reader because you're reading the text with the intention of reacting to what the author is saying. So when I'm reading a text, I'll write notes and I'll literally say like WTF, LOL, etc. Like, you don't have to worry about if what you're writing is appropriate or inappropriate. They're your notes. They're there to help you be engaged with the text. So whatever that reaction is that you're having to the text, if you think that the text is boring, write boring or put some Z's next to it, whatever it is to make you feel like you're having a conversation. Next, you want to make any connections that you can to text that you've previously read or to the content being covered in class. And also note any personal connections that you may have. So if you're reading something and you feel like you've had that experience before, or you haven't had that experience before and it's giving you a new perspective on life, or if you read a text in a previous class or in our class from 2 weeks ago and you feel like it connects to this point that the author is making, note down those connections because it'll be very helpful for you when you are ready to write your synthesis paper, which we'll get into in a couple of weeks. But a synthesis is basically where you are connecting the ideas from multiple sources. So noting those connections as you're reading whatever text it is that you're reading will help you when you're ready to brainstorm and ready to write that synthesis paper. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at a sample annotation of a text. So I just pulled up this very, very, very short story. It's a little bit disturbing, but I chose it because of how short it is, and it's still interesting even though it's short, and it'll give us a lot to talk about. So I'm just going to read it very quickly. We have the story is titled Nightmare. Elsie had nightmares about her kids drowning her in her bathtub. She told Andy about her terrible dreams. Andy said he thought that could happen knowing her kids. Elsie needed to stop her kids from killing her. Elsie told the cops she thought she shot 4 burglars breaking in. Such a short story, but so much content included in that story. So let's take a look at a sample annotation of this story. So here in the first sentence, Elsie had nightmares about her kids drowning her in the bathtub. So I highlighted nightmares about her kids, and my note for why I highlighted that is that she has negative feelings about her kids. It shows her state of mind. So I feel like that is it's kind of really giving Elsie's motivation when we get to the end of the story. It's giving that motivation. So I thought that was important to highlight. Next, I said here we have Andy said he thought that could happen. So I highlighted that because I was questioning, maybe like thinking it could happen justifies the fears that she may have or the actions that she took. And then at the end, when it says Elsie told the cops she thought she shot 4 burglars, I highlighted that because I was thinking, is she lying to the cops? Did she know what she was doing? Was it premeditated? So I felt like that was important to note. My summary of the entire paragraph is Elsie is scared of her kids killing her and she may have murdered them to prevent this. And now in blue, I have questions that kind of popped into my mind as I was reading the text. So maybe she was suffering from postpartum depression or other mental health issues. I wrote WTF, she got issues. Is Andy real or is he a part of her imagination? I was questioning why would Andy say that he thinks it would happen. I was also questioning why did she think this would be a reality for her. And also in this last sentence, I was thinking, did she hire men to kill the kids and said that they were burglars? Is she saying she shot her kids but she thought they were burglars? Is the last line related to the rest of the story? Did anything in the story happen or is it all in her mind? Like, those were just different questions that were coming to mind as I was annotating the text. And then I have here, what does this have to do with the story? Confusing. So initially when I read the story, I was a tiny bit confused about the last sentence and how it connected to the rest of the story, but analyzing the story helped to give more insight. So this is how annotating a text can be helpful. You want to critically think about the text, not just sit there and read, oh, okay, this is a paragraph about Elsie or her kids or whatever. If you sit there and think about the text like that, it won't generate a lot of ideas for you. But you see, when I annotated it, I can go and write a whole paper, a whole essay on this little teeny tiny paragraph. So annotating your text will be super, super helpful for you in deepening your understanding of the text, and also in generating ideas if you need to write an essay later on about this text. So that's what I wanted to talk about in reference to annotating a text. Now we're going to kind of shift gears a little and talk about the 3-question exercise. So this exercise helps you when you are trying to, again, deepen your understanding of a text, and also when you're trying to generate ideas that you may want to write about for an essay. So when we talk about a 3-question exercise, we have 3 different types of questions. So we have factual questions, and this type of question has a clear-cut answer, and the answers come directly from the text. So for example, we might have, who did Elsie tell about her nightmares? Or even like, what was the name of Elsie's friend, etc. So it's just very, very clear cut. You just go directly to the text and get those answers from the text. So these types of questions can be helpful for you to create, like if you are creating study questions for a class, like if you have an exam and you're studying a particular topic, you can write a bunch of factual questions and quiz yourself on those questions to make sure you understand whatever topic it is. Next we have interpretive questions. And these types of questions can have a variety of answers, and the answers are based on the text. So for example, we have, how does Elsie feel about her children? And why did Elsie tell the police she thought she shot 4 burglars? So we are basing our answers to these questions on the text, right? We'll kind of analyze the text to see different interpretations of how Elsie was feeling. But one person might say Elsie felt scared of her kids. Another person might say Elsie hated her kids and was trying to get rid of them. Another person might say Elsie felt indifferent about her kids and she was more scared about her kids killing her. So we'll interpret our answers to this question will be different based on how we interpret the text. So that's what an interpretive question is. We are still basing our answers on the text. We're still using the text to inform our answers, but depending on who you're talking to or depending on how you interpreted the text, you might have a variety of answers to those types of questions. So interpretive questions can help us to deepen our understanding of a particular text. And it can help us to generate ideas if we're writing an analysis of a piece of literature. So let's say you're assigned a poem or a short story and you have to do an analysis of that story. Interpretive questions can help with generating ideas for that. Okay, next we have philosophic questions. And philosophic questions are not bound by the text, but they are born from issues raised in the text. So for example, we have this question, is every woman fit to be a mother? So the text that we just read, the short story Nightmare, it didn't directly speak about if Elsie was fit to be a mother or not. But when I was reading the short story, that was one of the questions that I was thinking is, what was Elsie going through? Like, was she a good fit as a mother or not? And then that led me to thinking, well, is every woman fit to be a mother or not? So that is a question that came up from reading the text, even though it's not directly based on the text. Another question, is the nature of children good or evil? So again, the text didn't directly speak about this, but it's something that came to mind when I was reading the text. So the text inspired me to ask this question. So those are the 3 types of questions. Oh, by the way, philosophic questions, if you have to write a larger essay and even a research paper, as you will have to do for this class, philosophic questions can be very helpful for that because you're generating ideas moving beyond whatever text it is that you're reading. So the text is, again, inspiring you to ask these questions, but these questions are larger, so you can go beyond the text to find answers to them. So those are the three types of questions. Asking these questions, as I mentioned, will help you to understand the text better, and it will help you to generate ideas for if you're studying or, if you're writing an essay, etc.